Welcome to the Happy, Healthy Life Podcast with your hosts, Rob and Randy, who reveal the truth, the lies, and confusion about health so that you are no longer the victim to mainstream medical dogma and you are the hero to your own happy, healthy story.
Hello and welcome back to the Happy Healthy Life Podcast with your hosts, Rob and
Randy.
And we are
the Happy Healthy Guys.
Welcome to episode number 126. Hard to believe we are 126 episodes in. This episode is titled From Goat Cheese to Chronic Disease, the Modern World's War on Longevity. So we left the mountains of Sardinia the last time we chatted. We were feeling alive, and then we alluded to how we started entering back into real life, into the cities, and we saw what it is that is killing us. And the truth is, convenience is costing us our health, and connection is being replaced by chronic disease.
Yeah, we're going to expose the two silent killers of longevity, gentrification and modernity or modern living. And we're going to share with you how you can still build a long, happy life no matter where you live.
And that's a great thing. And that's one of our superpowers. Our superpowers is to be able to connect the modernity with this. We talk about, because of our roots coming from chiropractic and our philosophy, this innate God way of living, how to connect the two. And it was really cool to be able to watch that in action, see that play out in these villages like, say, Ulo. And let's talk about how, the blue zones really have, and we saw it play itself out because we were able to meet people who grew up in the blue zone and then moved away. So the first talking point is going from the blue zone to burnout. That culture shock of going from an area where you're walking every day, you're doing your earthing, not because you woke up going, I got to earth today. It's just a part of your everyday lifestyle where you're eating real food, real nutrient-dense food. And then we start having this gentrification and or modernity, quote, modern living. Dr. Randy, tell us about what is the culture shock and what is that doing to our health?
Yeah, it's a huge, and listen, let's be real here. I'm not upset about the fact that we have air conditioning.
We've got a microphone we can speak on a computer, this big gigantic computer screen right in front of us.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for running water, flushing toilets.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a lot of the things. I'm glad I can get in my car and I was able to actually drive over here to our headquarters and into the podcast studio versus having to walk, although I'd love to walk, but I'm glad sometimes cars are available. Guys, listen, modernity is incredible. I'm glad there are airplanes now that we could even be able to fly over and have these experiences. But what can happen is, and this is the disconnect and the pain of leaving a village that we were in and the villages that we visited in Sardinia, is going back into this modern world, these concrete jungles, these spread out cities. We've really lost the ability to reconnect with nature and how our ancestors taught us to live. And I look at that and I start thinking about one of the things that we saw there in these villages is that people did walk a lot. And it wasn't, like you said, they weren't trying to get their steps. They weren't wearing Fitbits or any type of wearable biohacking devices. This is just what they do. They get up and they move their bodies. They're not jumping into a red light therapy, $100,000 red light therapy bed. They're up watching the sun come up, getting early morning sun into their eyes. If in the mornings, if some of you have tried to sun gaze or get sun in your eyes and it's too painful or you have to squint or it gives you a headache, even just closing your eyes and looking at early morning sun, what you'll see is a red light in your eyelids as you're looking at that. That is literally a frequency of light from the sun that's energetic and healing to our mitochondria and recharges our batteries. So these are basic, simple things that now we're trying to recreate almost in a biohacking world, but that can get lost when you end up back in your own world. In fact, over there, you don't see people just sitting a lot.
Hold on. Let's back up for a second, okay? Because as you're talking, I was thinking this last weekend. It was super sunny here in Dallas, Fort Worth. And I can remember on sunny days like that, because I was going out to the pool on a sunny day like that, the first thing that I would have grabbed would have been my sunglasses. And
Yeah,
for
just
people,
unconsciously.
yeah, so people that are listening for the first time right now, are we saying you shouldn't wear sunglasses? What in the world? Okay, what is sun gazing?
Yeah.
And do we wear sunglasses? Let's go there first, and then
Well, I used to wear them. I
Right.
think the last photo evidence of me wearing sunglasses is maybe from like 2021 or 2022. I put them down. A lot of you, if you're out in the sun and you burn easily, stop wearing sunglasses. Your eyes are photobiomodulators. What that means is they pick up the sun, and that starts the hormone process in your body of creating melanin, which is a pigmentation of the skin, so you don't burn. When you block light, natural sunlight into your eyes, and that's exactly what sunglasses do, you literally put yourself at high risk to get burned. So getting early morning sun, getting late in the day sun without wearing sunglasses, and I'm not saying you can't ever wear sunglasses, but definitely not in the early morning and the later evening. You want to make sure you're getting the light into your eyes. You have more mitochondria in your eyes than any other part of your body. And remember, your mitochondria are the energy production factories in the cells of our bodies. They create ATP, they create energy, they create structured water, they create heat. This is a part of how this is your longevity play. And when you don't have strong mitochondria and you're blocking light from getting into your eyes, you're not charging your battery. 2/3 of your energy requirements for your mitochondria come directly from sunlight. Only 1/3 come from nutritional factors like nutrients and oxygen. 2/3 come from the light that comes from the sun getting into your eyes. So I think about our friend Giovanni. And Giovanni was 90 years old. We've talked about him. We would have thought we were hanging out with what? Somebody in their 50s.
I would have thought even in their 20s.
The way he
was
moved.
the way he was moving, he was more active. Even his attitude, that's a whole different thing. We talked about that a little bit last time, but yeah, his energy wasn't 90.
And he wasn't wearing sunglasses.
No.
Giovanni doesn't wear sunglasses. This guy, and he didn't have, discolored skin and, skin cancer all over his head and face. Like, this guy looked young.
And he was bald and not wearing a baseball cap, by the way.
Exactly. So you notice these things. You also, one thing I notice as well that modernity has done, and it really has been a lot more devastating than we even believe. All the rubber-soled shoes we now have, especially the walking shoes and the running shoes that have that elevated heel with a narrow toe, where all your toes get crammed together and your heel is elevated and you've got all that extra cushion. And what happens is people walk in these shoes, and what they're doing is they're walking beyond their body's ability or capacity to know when to stop walking or to use your actual feet, knees, your kinetic points in your body, because all of that cushion robs you of the ability to know how to walk correctly. So you're hurting yourself. You're causing knee problems, hip problems. There's a kinetic chain from your feet to your knees to your hips, all the way through your body that you disrupt when you break that chain. They were wearing more flat-soled leather shoes, very simple. That way your toes are spread out. Your feet are able to pick up on all the different levels of ground. A lot of you who wear shoes that have closed toes, you start to get those sores on your feet, or even you start, what do they call those where you build like
The bunion?
the bunions in your toes. Yeah, what your body is building those calcified bone
Nasty.
bunions to stabilize your feet.
I don't like feet.
Yeah.
And having been had a chiropractic practice, if anybody ever asked me to look at their feet or adjust their feet,
That was for the intern doctor?
I would have the intern doctor do that. Just FYI.
Yeah, but bunions are bodies. That's the body doing the right thing. It's stabilizing the base of your body because you've crammed your toes into these small areas. So rubber-soled shoes, they also disconnect you from the earth. So earthing is when you're getting charge and electricity from the earth, you're donating electrons, you're receiving energy. Rubber blocks that transaction. And so when you block the body's connection to the earth, you compromise your health, you compromise your energy, you also compromise your circulation. Circulation is huge with charge and energy and earthing. So these are all things innately they were doing that when you come back to our modern world with the rubber-soled elevated shoes, the artificial light, sitting all the time in chairs, not squatting or standing or moving or walking, we start to see just little things that go a long way, that are moving us from our best life and that are literally killing our ability to age the way we should be aging.
Got it. Okay, so I've been taking notes because you just said about 80 different things at the same time.
At least.
At least. At least. Okay, so here's what we just learned is that, yes.
If they're listening to this podcast, they should know by now, always have a pen and paper.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting sunlight into your eyes helps to be able to stimulate your body's metabolism, the energy production inside there. So that's a good thing. Same thing with earthing. So it's all energy. Same thing now, we were talking about walking now, okay? So like Giovanni, all these people were naturally moving. On average, we were walking up to 20,000 plus steps every single day. It wasn't because we got up and said, hey, we got to get our 10,000 steps in. No, it's just a natural part of everyday life for them where they're walking. Like Giovanni said, hey, if I'm going to have a glass of wine today, I got to make sure that I do my walk. That was the reward that he had. So even as a do level thing, in order to be able to, let's bring what they were doing right there in Saulo into this modern, to modern living. So a do level thing that you could do, and this is something that I've started doing and I've adopted, and I never did it before, is if I know I'm going to have a meeting where I'm going to be taking a phone call, is I will do it and schedule that while I'm also walking at the exact same time. Because now I'm out in nature, my head is clear, I can really be able to have a better conversation versus just sitting. Because something happens when you're sitting and you're not moving, it's not engaging your brain. When you're moving, it's engaging your brain. And you've also experienced this before. If you've ever, and this is one of the reasons why I walk in the morning, because for myself, one of the times where I feel the most stressed or the most anxiety is that moment where you're waking up and then your brain engages and you start thinking about all of the things that you've got to do throughout the day and or all the different stressors in the day. So for myself, what I've learned about me is that the first thing that I need to do is, I'll journal just to be able to get my thoughts on paper. I'll do a quick meditation to be able to clear my brain of those things, but then I have to go walk. And the reason that I do that is because it automatically starts engaging my brain in a different way, right? So instead of the stress hormones like cortisol being produced, I'm getting more of a dopamine hit where it's the relaxing hormones are hitting. So if I'm gonna have a conversation with somebody, you want me to have a conversation with me while I'm clear, I'm not stressed, I'm not gonna be coming from that place, and that's gonna happen when I'm moving. I don't know if you've experienced that or not, but I think that's why these people are not stressed.
Yeah, no, walking has become my favorite exercise. Of all the things I do, if I do anything, I walk every single day. It's the most powerful thing you could do. It's ancestrally consistent. So even in a modern world where, if you make a few changes and modify how you do it, you can really still get the benefits of what our ancestors got. So footing is important. Getting up in the morning, like you said, Dr. Rob, that early morning sun, getting sun on your body, on your face, in your eyes, that is something that's very special because morning sun, what it also does, and this is not what they're thinking over in the villages of Saulo. This is what they do. But from a scientific place, you do set your circadian rhythms. And your circadian rhythms are what set your hormones. Every single hormone in our body is attached to a specific circadian rhythm. You brought up the hormone cortisol, which is higher in the morning. That's normal. In the evening, you want your cortisol to be lower. This is why one of the best things you can do, and it's very, very ancestrally consistent, that you can bring over to this modernized world is when you eat food, what we notice is they eat food during the hours where there's light. They don't eat when it's dark. So focus on eating your 1, 2 to 3 meals, not snacking all day long, but eating real food when there's light out. So getting up, moving, eating food in the mornings after your walk or even before, those are things that you can do, eating real food nutrition, especially too, you're more insulin sensitive in the morning, which is why in the morning having fresh fruit juice, pastured eggs, obviously cooking and healthy fats. The longevity fat in these places are animal-based fats. They're not vegetable oils. They're not even fruit oils. When I say fruit oil, things like avocado oil or olive oil, the longevity fat, especially in Sardinia, it is lard. So animal-based fats, we're animals, we're animal-based fats. So you want to make sure you're cooking and using grass-fed butter. You're actually cooking in lard, tallow, obviously our favorite oil, which we created back almost over 8 years ago, SCT oil, which is a short chain triglyceride oil, which by the way, they get over there from their raw cheeses, raw sheep milk, raw goat milk, raw cheeses and milks that they're eating and drinking and making these incredible foods that are rich in short chain fats.
Thank you so much for listening to the Happy Healthy Life podcast. And as always, if you don't know what's going on with your metabolism and you want to find out, go to metabolismscore.com.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the Happy Healthy Life podcast. And if you're wondering about our Happy Healthy Metabolism products, go to thehappyhealthylife.com and at checkout, use promo code podcast to save 10% off any of our products. So move your body. You can do that in a modern world. Quit wearing rubber-soled shoes. Get your feet bare if you can on occasion. Those are just simple things that go a long, long way. They all start to add up, though, the further we move away from our ancestral living.
They do. And I think that's why the second point is where gentrification literally leads to degeneration for a lot of the reasons why you just talked about, because what we've done is
explain gentrification too, because that's maybe a term, obviously modern living makes sense. But when you talk about gentrification, and we've seen that even in one of the most beautiful places that we travel to in Mexico, what are we talking about when we say gentrification?
So when we talk about gentrification, it's where you take, I guess, older living or the way people used to do it, and you start to make things more convenient for people.
You monetize it. And you go profit over people.
Yeah, you're monetizing things, and so you're starting to replace foods that were harvested before. Out of convenience. Now you're putting those foods into a package. When you're putting them into a package, you're now processing those things. And what they're showing is that when you do that and you gentrify an area, what you're also doing is you're replacing community with isolation because you're making things very convenient.
You're driving out the locals.
You're driving out the locals. Right? And so that's why even for me, I love to, let's be honest, I love to go out to eat. And I love to go out to eat, not because I love the food that they're cooking, because most of the time I'm having to tell them what to put into my food or what to not put into my food. I just love being around people. I love the community aspect of it more than anything. That's why I love cooking for people. I love people coming over and eating. I love sharing meals with people. And so when you start gentrifying things and making things convenient, easy to grab when you're on the go, you're doing it by yourself, you're doing it in a hurry, you're not enjoying it, you're not savoring it, you're not getting all the health benefits of it because the things that you're putting in your body aren't healthy. And so that right there is where, it's really not just like you were talking about the monetization of it. It's not really even so much an economic issue as what you're doing is you're just taking out all the things that you're replacing all the reasons why it was created in the first place.
What made this place special now no longer feels special anymore. And we even noticed that as we got out of some of these more remote villages and you start moving out of the mountains out into the coast of Sardinia, and so some of these larger cities, which now have fully moved towards this modern way of living, and definitely, gentrification at its finest, where what's left of these remote beach areas and all the resorts that have come in and the restaurants, which once again is great, but it doesn't even resemble what this would have looked like, even 50, 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting because as we were there, we were talking to our guide Claudio, and we were telling him what beach town we were going to be going to. He's like, you definitely don't want to go there, and we didn't understand why, because we were like, well, there's a beach there, it's beautiful. You're on the coast of Sardinia. We hear that they're most beautiful beaches in the world. But when you get there and you see this gentrification happening and this monetization of things, we sit down to eat. And the food that they brought out wasn't good. And we were in Italy. We thought, okay, you get great food everywhere when you're in Italy, but you could see how the gentrification had really affected it. And not only that, I thought this was really interesting. And you remember what I'm talking about. We get to this restaurant that says that they're open 24 hours a day. We got there late. We had driven in, and I think it was maybe like 11 o'clock in the evening. And, 11 o'clock in the evening is early by Italian standards, or even in Spain or Europe. We get there and they go, okay, you're going to have to order quickly because we're getting ready to close. We're like, oh, that said 24 hours right there. So we sit down in this way. It was the most uncomfortable, anxiety-ridden beginning of a dinner that I've ever had, because it was rushing everything. It was so fast. It took out just the enjoyment of being able to enjoy a meal, which we had been experiencing now for 3 days prior to that. And then all of a sudden it was like,
2-hour meals now are crushed into 15, 20 minutes.
I was like, I couldn't do that. You saw me. I was so
I knew my boy hit the wall.
annoyed.
I wasn't happy either, I gotta tell you. But we had just been, we had really just enjoyed the community of Sardinia, and now we're in this modern part of the beach side. And what's crazy too is, we did see, even in these longevity blue zone villages, not just even in Saulo and other parts of the mountains and these small areas where they're known, some of these areas have been known to have average lifespans of 89 years. That is remarkable. In fact, they had to bring in researchers and scientists years ago to even look at the data, because they were like, there's no way that's possible that an average lifespan would be 89 years old. But we did see some unhealthy people. But when we began to dig and talk to these people, what we found, the overweight people, these were people that were born there, but had left the ancestral living, this basic, simple life of Sardinia, and had moved to the cities, these modern cities, and had adopted a whole new way of living and thinking. And now we would even hear them even comment. Like, I remember one comment, we were over there when they were milking those goats and they were making the goat cheese. And this one lady who was overweight said, yeah, that's the healthiest cheese because it's lower in cholesterol. So they were already starting to regurgitate a lot of the dogma that has plagued us here in America with the no saturated fat, no cholesterol lies. And you got to shove your cholesterol down as low as you can if you want to prevent heart disease. That is an example right there of bad information that has been adopted by a modern lifestyle that now is bleeding into these bigger cities.
For sure. So, okay, so what can you do? What's a do-level thing that you can do? One of the things that you can do, it's one of the things that I enjoy doing, is on Saturdays, typically I'll go have coffee on a Saturday morning at a coffee shop called George. It's in Coppell, Texas.
Yeah, it's a great place.
And in Coppell, Texas, right across the street from George, every single Saturday morning is a farmer's market. So a do-level thing that you can do is, that's a way you can be able to go out into community. You can go to the farmer's market. You can be able to buy these foods that have just been harvested locally. In fact, last week I bought some honey there. There's amazing. And the bees were here, local bees. And so that's one of the things that you can be able to do. But it's also great to be able to talk to the farmers, talk about how the animals were raised. You understand, what they've been eating. They're eating green grass. Are they, where's the Wagyu beef actually coming from? So that's one of the things that you could be able to do. And then in doing that, it makes it really easy. Here's a challenge that we have for you. Over this next week, do the one ingredient challenge. We talk about sci-fiing with your food.
S-I-F-I.
S-I-F-I.
Not S-C-I-F-I.
Yeah, single ingredient food.
Although some of the food they're making looks a little sci-fi these days. Right?
Oh my God.
S-C-I-F-I.
Yeah, so go a week where you're where you're challenging yourself to eat single ingredient food items for a week. So we always say that is what's it, for example.
Yeah. So, for example, beef should have one ingredient. It's going to be beef. Eggs, one ingredient, eggs. It's really amazing when you start thinking about the foods that we choose and really where did they come from? How were the animals treated? What is actually in this stuff? And if you're seeing multiple ingredients, that's usually because obviously you're buying boxed, canned, and prepackaged food, which really is that really food? And of course, our most famous acronym SURF goes right along with it. Simply eat real food. If you set something on the counter, walk away and come back in 2 weeks and it looks the same, that's not food, guys. That is built for shelf life. That would stay fresh into the next millennium. We always talk about, we bought this McDonald's hamburger and French fries
Sitting right
like
over here
7,
to
8
our
years
left.
ago. And today it looks exactly like it did 8 years ago. And some of you may be saying, well, I would never eat McDonald's again. Yeah, but a lot of the foods you're buying may have just as much shelf life as a McDonald's cheeseburger because things should spoil and go bad. So you have to remember that. I would always also challenge you too, and this is a great way to sci-fi, get to know your local farmers, get to know your ranchers. A lot of times there's a local co-op or even a farm share. I joined a place here. There's a place, a health food store called Sunflower Shop, and they now have a local farm here in Texas where they're bringing over raw milk. And I'm so excited because I used to have to drive all the way to Plano. And if you don't live in Dallas, Fort Worth, and don't know where Grapevine to Plano is, depending on traffic, that can be a nightmare drive. Now, this is right around the corner from where I live, and I'm getting access to fresh milk. And I went and looked at their website, and now I know, oh, these cows are grass-fed. These are actually strong heritage breed cows, these Jersey cows that are genetically correct. They take great care of their animals. They get access to fresh grass, outside, sunlight. They use no antibiotics. So this is an incredible thing to do, is start getting to know your farmers, your ranchers, the local farmers markets. These are great places to go to get real food. And that definitely is a way to bring Sardinia or ancestral living into our modern world. There isn't anything more powerful than putting real food into your body. In fact, I was having some interesting dialogue with my nephews this last weekend as I went to go see my brother and his family in Rockwall, Texas, across Dallas on the east side. And Austin and Luke Austin's about to be 9 years old, and Luke just recently turned 6. And of course, it's always fun to play the food games with these guys. And Austin asked me a question. He said, what do you think is a greater investment, to have a brand new Lamborghini or to eat really healthy food? And I said, well, Austin, what do you think I'm going to say? He goes, well, I know what you're going to say because I want the Lamborghini, but you're going to say the real food. I'm like,
I'm with him.
I'm like, well, listen, a Lamborghini may be nice. I said, but you know what? The investment of real food nutrition allows me to be healthy and well, and it's an investment into me that would even allow me to drive a Lamborghini. Because if you're broke down, sick, chronically ill, and in the medical paradigm, you're going to lose all your money. If you can't afford to be healthy, you sure as heck can't afford to be sick. The number one way you go broke is when you stop investing in you and you outsource that to a modern medical system that has zero cures and a ton of drugs that are ready for you to take the rest of your life. So it was a really healthy conversation with my very smart nephew, Austin Johns.
Love that conversation. I would have said you can have do the healthy eating and have the Lamborghini. You can have both.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'd have said. All right. So again, like we were talking about with the death of longevity because of this modern era of living, you know, one of the things about that we've also noticed that here, I see it all the time as well, is that you just don't have that, and it goes back to community. You don't have that, you're not sharing meals like people once shared meals. One of the things I absolutely loved when I was in chiropractic school, I had this, one of my roommates, Peter, came from a huge Italian family in upstate New York. And one of the things that Peter always wanted to make sure that we did is that we all had to eat dinner together. Actually, it was more in the afternoon on Sundays. And he would make sausage and sauce and cook this big Italian meal for all of us every single Sunday. And I really loved that. But I think it's that daily interaction. But something that's more important than that is this. is that when you take yourself, and you alluded to this just a minute ago, those folks that used to live and grew up in that village, then they left and they moved somewhere else. And now they were around people who were making poor health decisions unconsciously because it was something that they had learned.
Yeah.
So what they've shown with all these blue zones is that when you leave that area and you're around people that are making poor health decisions, it is contagious. And that what they say is that you're the sum of the 5 people who you're around the most. So if you're around people who are making poor health decisions, the likelihood that you're going to be also making poor health decisions goes way
Social
way
contagion. It's a real thing.
It is a real thing, and we see it all the time. Anytime I'm even sitting, came from the coffee shop that we're always at, Buongiorno down the street, and you're sitting next to people and you're listening to the conversations that they're having. It's always really funny to me because there's always one of 2 conversations that's happening at some point when you have people that are talking. One of them is always going to revolve around health.
Absolutely.
Almost always. And it's interesting listening to people. And it just happened last night. I was in another coffee shop working, and right next to
coffee do you drink
drink a lot
today?
of coffee.
Is this part of your longevity strategy?
It is part of the longevity strategy, but it was a place that, again, I don't like working by myself in isolation. I have to be around people. And so I'm here. It was right down the street at Black Sheep because Buongiorno doesn't stay open that late.
The London chain, yeah.
The London chain. And so there was a guy sitting next to me, and he was talking to a couple, and he was coaching them and giving them health advice. And he couldn't have been giving them any worse advice than
he sounded like a medical
giving
doctor,
them.
though.
He did. He was telling them about all of the vegetables that they should eat,
Yeah,
and
they
all
pair everything,
and how to lift weights correctly and or properly. And the interesting thing is that when you also looked at him, he didn't look healthy at all.
Sounds like a medical doctor.
And they were hanging on every single word he was saying. So anyway, I only say that to say that you really do have to be careful about who it is that you're getting your healthcare advice from. Because if it's somebody who is not healthy, that's not the person you want to be getting your health advice from. And that's what's happening when you move away from these blue zones because of convenience, monetization, all the things that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, it's like I always say, it's like, what are other people telling you, right? What are you telling yourself, and what are you telling other people? What did you really believe in? And if what you believe really is that even true? That's really a powerful strategy to longevity, because a lot of the things that we've adopted as facts and as science really are just lies that we've been hearing over and over and over, and all of a sudden it becomes how you live your life, yet have no idea why you believe it. That's a part of modernity where lies keep getting passed down over and over and over. It's like, how would seed oils and vegetable oils now be the preferred fat recommended by the medical industry, the American Heart Association, the American Diabetic Association, that's handed down to us, that would be a healthier replacement than saturated animal fats that nourished our ancestors for thousands of years, where there was no chronic disease, no obesity, no heart disease, no cancer. How does that lie perpetuate itself to become the standard? That is a part of how that happens. So really powerful when you really start looking at what is it that you believe, why is it that you believe that, and the most powerful skill set you'll ever develop that will help you more than anything is the ability and how quickly you can unlearn things that aren't true and then be open to relearning things. And it doesn't mean once you find something's not true that you have to know what the truth is. That will come to you, but it'll only come to you when you get comfortable enough to be in that place of, I may not know what is true, but I know what's not true. That's really the Sherlock Holmes way of finding who actually committed the murder. Keep finding what's not true, and ultimately the truth will show up. And that is the way to do your health. Stop believing the lies and go back and look at, I'll talk about this before. My mom's story of her grandmother, it's the story of the 6 sisters. This is almost a Sardinian tale that happened right here in Texas, where her grandmother and her 5 sisters all lived to be 95 to 100. Well, Those are the longevity experts.
Totally.
I want to talk to people like them. What did they do? Well, they moved, they walked, they worked in a garden, they milked cows, they churned butter, they raised pigs, they rendered pig lard, they were outside, they didn't wear rubber-soled shoes, they didn't wear a sunscreen, and they all lived. In fact, I think one of them died at 98 in a house fire. She'd still be alive. I mean, the story of the six sisters is the story of what we're talking about. It's getting back to the basics, a simple life, reconnected with nature, and being willing to unlearn the last 120 years of the things we believed that aren't serving us well. Just look around. What we're doing is clearly not working.
Yeah. So in conclusion, you don't have to move to the mountains. You just have to create good rhythms for yourself in your life. And what I would say is you need to start asking yourself better questions. You think about it, a thought really in your mind is definitely a thing, but a thought really is yourself asking yourself a question, and then it becomes a thought, and then that thought becomes a thing. So if you can be able to change the questions that you're asking yourself, you can really change the trajectory of your life, because you're changing your life. And so those thoughts then create those belief patterns. So if you're going to eat something, as an example, ask yourself, okay, why am I eating this right now? What am I putting into my body? Am I eating this right now because I'm trying to I'm emotionally eating right now? And hey, you know what? If you've got some stresses, an emotional eat every once in a while ain't a bad thing. But the funny thing now is, like, if I'm going to emotionally eat for whatever reason, I'm eating like a dessert that we got from Go Organics.
I'm gonna make it.
I'm eating one of those peanut butter, energy balls made with SCT oil is my treat for that.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, we got all those healthy desserts from Go Organics. Isabella was texting me last night, and she's like, hey, do you have those desserts? Can I come pick them up? So she came over last night at like 10 o'clock and picked up some healthy desserts for her and her friend, which was great because my daughter is wanting these healthy desserts. But I only say that to say that, yes, you can do that, but ask yourself, okay, what am I going to eat? Mm-hmm. If I'm feeling stressed for whatever reason and I do want to eat something, what are you going to put into your body? How is that going to affect your body? Is that going to have a positive effect or a negative effect? What's that going to feel like tomorrow? So it's asking yourself those questions before you actually take that action can really change your life. So start asking yourself better questions.
Yeah, in a world where raw milk is illegal and obviously soda
Unless you're an animal.
Soda is just fine and dandy. Remember, you are your best advocate and your health is your greatest investment. And that is really, once you take back control of your health, life can be so much more fun. You don't have to live as a victim. You don't have to live scared. You don't have to worry that somehow chronic disease is going to strike you down. Health really is the normal. God made us to be healthy. Don't ever forget that. Health and disease, they're really just the same thing. It's the body doing the right thing under the circumstances that you've created. The Happy Healthy Life, one of the reasons we started this company is we just wanted to empower every single person that we came into contact with to be able to now create an environment where great things are more likely to happen, all built on a very solid, strong, foundational premise that God made you to be healthy, that the greatest doctor in the world is on the inside of every single one of you. That is a fact. It's not a belief system. It's an absolute. And if you know that to be true, the goal isn't more things. It's less interference. It's addition by subtraction. Don't let this modern world fool you. There is nothing new under the sun. Are there some procedures and some potential medical interventions that can be life-saving? No question about it. But there is nothing that they do that creates a healthier life for you that's chemical-based or that's cut, poison, and burn. You have the greatest doctor inside of you, and I'll say it till my last dying breath. So if you don't want me to keep saying it, stop listening, because I'm always going to say it. Because if you don't believe it, you're going to keep making those same decisions that you were talking about when you don't ask yourself better questions and you keep making decisions based on things that just aren't true.
Yeah. So for those of you who always ask, how do we work with you? Right, we were talking about earlier. We've got a whole bunch of people that just came in to our family, our Happy Healthy Family, from a talk that we did in Chicago last weekend. If you ever want to find out how we can be able to speak to your group, somebody in your town, just send us a DM on Instagram. However, if you're wondering how to be able to work with us as well, a good place to start is to go to metabolismscore.com. At metabolismscore.com, that can show you what's going on with your health, what's going on with your metabolism, and then tell you what the next steps are in working with us. We have all kinds of different levels of ways to be able to get in and work with us and get the support that you want so that you can live this happy, healthy life and you don't have to move to the mountains of Ulo. So with that being said, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to share the show, like it, rate it, review it. If you're going to rate it, make sure it's a 5-star review. Anything less than that does not make sense. And if there's something that you didn't like that we said, you can send us a DM or keep your terrible, negative, nasty comments to yourself.
Yeah. Hey, and if you do listen to us on Apple Podcasts, that's where you can give us an actual review and a 5-star rating. Guys, it really goes a long way how the algorithms work, and messages and content like this, it just seems to not go very far. And the only way it gets out is with people like you. So thank you for your support. We would love to have a great review. Share this with anybody you think who could benefit, because right now we're at a critical mark in history where we can make a huge difference by tipping things back over in our favor. I'm excited to be a part of this movement. Thank you guys for loving us, and appreciate everybody for listening and watching. God bless every single one of you.
Thanks for listening to the Happy Healthy Life podcast. If you enjoy the show, make sure to follow them on Instagram at the H2 Life, or on YouTube and Facebook at the Happy Healthy Guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts.